Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the Yemonja class coming from the 12-week Orisha Intensive. Today we're going to discuss Yemonja and her part in the human body, as well as the shadow sides of things that attack the body through that Yemonja energy. So it is important to know that Yemonja is the Orisha that governs the liver, the breast, and a lot of Apata keys talk about her being the Orisha with the big breast. And what that symbolizes is her nurturing and nursing all of humanity, as well as her being the mother of all humanity. They also talk about Yemonja being governing the buttocks, and her typically being symbolized with having, the big bosom, the wide hips, and the big backside. And that really indicates the curves of a woman, that sensuality and femininity that really is a part of womanhood, and that transition from being a little girl or a young woman into a full-grown woman. Like if you ever heard our elders say back in the day, "Oh, child, that's just your woman body," meaning that when you get to a certain age and a certain level of maturity, not necessarily a mental or emotional maturity, but more so a physical maturity. Any of us that are past the age of 30 or maybe 40 have begun to experience the change in our body. Typically, we tend to be more round, more voluptuous. We tend to be fuller in certain areas. So that's really where that symbology of Yemonja comes from. Again, she governs the liver as well. And if you have ever studied the human body or the liver, we know that the liver is one of the organs that works very heavily into flushing out things that are a waste or things that are toxins from our body. As well as the kidneys do that as well. But today we're going to focus more so on Yemonja as she is assigned to the womb. And it is important to note that the womb itself is an Orisha. Okay? And that Orisha is called Odu. And I'm sure you've heard the word Odu before. And what Odu is it's a place where it is the energy where all revolution or all things that are revealed, all wisdom is revealed through Odu, including the balance between the spiritual realm and the physical realm. Apata Ki talks about how Ogun, Obatala, and Odu were getting ready to come down from heaven to earth. And Obatala went and got the power of creativity. Ogun got the power of technology. And Odu was the only woman. And she says to Olodumare, well, everybody else got power. What is my power? And Olodumare gave Odu the power to create. And so nothing happens on earth without Odu, because nothing can be created without that creative force. And so it is good to understand that Odu is the actual metaphysical force of the womb. Now, Odu is referred to as an opening between heaven and earth, and some people refer to it as a container. And as such, the womb is an opening that allows the human soul to come from heaven to earth. And Yemonja, excuse me, Yemonja protects the physical womb. So I wanted to make that distinction. Odu is the womb. Yemonja protects the physical womb. So Odu is the symbolic, the energy of the womb. Yemonja is the womb and protects the physical womb and its foundation. Its function. So Yemonja protects the physical womb and its functions. Odu is the metaphysical womb and that function. So whereas in the metaphysical and the spiritual significance and function of the womb is Odu, but the physical function and the physical significance of the womb is Yemonja. Does that make sense? So spiritual, metaphysical, creative force, Odu. Physical function, giving birth, menstrual cycles, creative physical creation, Yemonja. So that's the difference there, okay? But of course, Odu and Yemonja work together because that is the primordial mother. That is the primordial femininity. That is the primordial feminine energy. Odu, Yemonja, Oya, Oshun. Okay, and there are many, many other feminine energies. But for this class, in this respect, we're going to talk about Odu, Yemonja, and that connection there. So in this sense, Odu and Yemonja work together as balance. And that balance is between the spiritual and the physical algorithm and synergy needed to create life and ultimately creation. Now, we've already acknowledged that all children are ancestors returned, so it should come as no surprise that both Odu, the Orisha, and Yemonja, the Orisha, are at the helm of both Gelede, which is Yemonja, and Egbe Egungun, which is Odu. Okay? And there are plenty of apatakis that can back that theory up. It's not a theory. It is what it is. Yes, females cannot go under the Agan or under the Egungun masquerade. But if you are familiar with the culture, that is more recent. In ancient times, it was the women that handled all Egbe Egungun and all Gelede, including the masquerade. And there are patakis that talk about what happened that caused that shift. But if you ever see certain aspects or certain types of Egbe Egungun or the Agan, you'll see that a lot of them have birds on them, and that is significant of the female energy and the fact that that ability to manifest. Because Odu, having a womb or having that Odu, that Yemonja energy working simultaneously, that means that females automatically were born and gifted with the power of Ofo Ashe. And what that means is powerful words, prayerful words. That means that from having that womb, that natural womb or that womb energy, we are able to use our tongues to create things. Okay? But the tongue, or the words rather, have to match the creative energy that we're manifesting in our wombs. Okay? And so the reason I bring that up as it pertains to the bird or the eleye is because the bird comes from Aje or Iyami, the primordial mothers. And both Odu and Yemonja are a part of that primordial mothers. And so not to get too much into the primordial mothers or what some people call the witches, but anytime you see strong, powerful women or women energy, you'll always see that it has some connection to the eleye, the bird, because the bird is the watchkeeper and it helps to push forward that energy. So when you're talking about the incantations, women, to my understanding with Egbe Egungun, the Ancestor Society are still allowed to be a part of that because you still have to have that Ofo Ashe in order to activate that incantation in order for that person who was a person underneath the Agan to now be that ancestral spirit that is represented in the Agan. I hope that that makes sense for you. But if not, you're welcome to post questions in the group. Or email me at dothehealingwork@gmail.com. Again, dothehealingwork@gmail.com if you have questions and you're not in the Facebook group. Okay? So moving forward, African proverbs say that you can't know who you are unless you can call 7 generations of your ancestors. Now, when we look at Yemonja, even a very basic Google search of Yemonja will tell you that her number is 7. 7 is the number of divinity, spirituality, it's indivisible, it's completeness. Okay? And so, when we talk about ancestors returning through the womb, then we can see there where that Yemonja energy is. Okay? Now, if you have also studied Odu or Moraine de Legun or Ifa at all, then you know that there are 16 Odu, especially in Moraine de Legun. Okay? And the 256 that come through Ifa divination come from the original the founding 16 Odu. So Marindeledun stops at the 16. Ifa takes 16, and it takes all the branches that come from that as well. Okay? And so ancestors returned through the womb. Okay? A person, a baby who is now an adult, does not know themselves unless they can call Yemonja's number, 7 generations of ancestry going back. Okay? And while each reincarnation, while we're in a human incarnation, Ifa Odu says, right, that each reincarnation is an opportunity. The focus should be to provide for 16 generations going forward. So here again we see where Odun and Yemonja work together. Ancestor returned has to provide for 16 generations forward and cannot be considered a full-grown adult knowing who they are, prepared to take on the world, unless they knew who they were 7 generations back. And when I say who they were, not who they personally were, but when I say who they were, I mean ancestrally. Okay? Now, Yemonja, as both the physical womb and the amniotic fluid, provides the nutrients and the protection of each ancestor returned, or baby, or fetus, whatever you choose to call it. And as the ocean and fresh water are, there, she works as both, she is the protection and the nutrients for all humanity, as well as all of the creatures on earth. And you can see that in her manifestation as fresh water, and you can see it in her manifestation as the ocean, and you can also see it as her manifestation as the physical womb and the physical amniotic fluid that surrounds and protects the baby and provides nutrients through that amniotic fluid. Now, if you've ever studied psychology, then you'll know that water itself is used to symbolize emotion. And in recent years, Western studies have discovered that what we as Africans already knew. And it's that emotions of a pregnant woman let off neurohormones that are transmitted to the baby. So what does that mean? Whatever mom feels, baby feels. Whatever mom thinks, it turns into emotion that baby feels. Okay? So mothers that are have extremely stressful pregnancies, more often than not, have babies that are hyperactive, irritable, and colicky. Chronic stress during pregnancy alters the distribution of blood flow in the fetus, which changes the character of the baby's physiological makeup. So depending on how stressed out you are in your pregnancy or not, can actually change the the physical makeup of your baby, including the neurons, including the nervous system, including the emotional way that children handle their emotion, how they react to stress, if they come out anxious, if they come out quick to anger, if they come out needing more security, if they come out easily afraid of things. All of those are influenced by the emotion of the mother while pregnant. It can even change their genetic or their physiological features, okay? Hence the old wives' tale that a baby looks like whoever aggravated the hell out of the mother the most during pregnancy. So science has proven that grandma was right. If you ever heard your grandma say, "Woo, that baby looked just like his daddy. Oh, he must have drove you crazy while you was pregnant," they were right. Because science is in the process and has definitely proven that the mother's emotion can change the physiological makeup of a child in vitro or in gestation. Okay? So the reverse is also true, though. A happy, calm pregnancy typically leads to a happy, calm baby. As mentioned before, the womb is a lot more than just a physical internal organ. It is also the center of consciousness and represents our foundation of personal power during our physical reincarnation. So that is what Yemonja's energy is focused and centered on. A creative force within us. And it has its own consciousness. Okay? Now, when our womb energy is healthy, it manifests in our physical and deep emotional health. The healed, balanced womb holds divinely balanced sexual energy, which is our creative foundation. It is the foundation for our creativity and our inspiration. Now, Ogun and Eshu as our hearts and third eye, right, and some emotion, are here to open us to the truth that we and all creation exist inside and outside of the physical plane. Obatala helps to balance and maintain our connection to our highest heavenly self. Yemonja is the key to our ability to experience deeper levels of personal well-being, as well as opportunities to heal inherited suffering and trauma. Yemonja also gives us the opportunity to use the alignment with all parts of ourselves to restore humanity, our families, and ourselves to our highest potential. Now, I want to take a moment here to kind of stop for a second and talk about something very quickly, because a lot of this class is based on the womb. So I know some of the women watching this class is saying, well, wait, what if you were either born without a womb, or you had a hysterectomy or some type of surgery that you no longer have a womb? Or maybe some of the men are saying, hey, I don't have a womb, so am I not in contact or in touch with that Yemonja energy? Not so. The womb need not fret. So people without a womb need not fret, because the energy of the womb is still there if you were born with a womb and you no longer have it, or if you were just born as a woman. Now, men have something similar, and it's an energy center that in Japanese is called Hara, and in Hindu is called Shiva. Okay? And I use those words because there is no English word for it. But we will speak more about the Hara, the male version, or the male energy, the masculine energy that is very similar, or a counterpart, a complement to the feminine womb when we go into our course on Shango. But it is important to understand that Yemonja, most Yemonja Apatakis always reference Shango as her favorite son. Understanding that the womb has a masculine counterpart, we understand why he is her favorite son. Because the energies are, in some regards, are very similar. Now, the womb bridges us not just to our own sexuality, but also the masculine and feminine energy and the balance that it brings. It also bridges the ability to heal ancestral lineages. It gives us creative power, the ability to release stored trauma and emotion, and it also helps us to unlock our own primordial connection. All right? So then what happens when we have womb trauma, or trauma in that center point of our consciousness? Well, it's important to understand, as I always say, do the healing work, because being broken is a choice. The womb, like the black hole in the galaxies, is a creative force that holds on until it decides that it is well to release. Such as when a woman is pregnant with the body. The womb has its own consciousness, and when the baby is ready to enter the world, the womb will begin to release it. Okay, now science has created things that allow, that will try to force the baby to come out. Of course, there are C-sections, but what I'm referring to is natural, healthy pregnancies. Of course, there are things, external things, that will make the baby come out sooner, premature. All of those are a thing. But what I'm referring to is a regular, healthy, non-high-risk pregnancy, if you've ever been pregnant. Or even sometimes we can talk about a baby coming out prematurely. Maybe it's that baby's time. As long as there is no stress or other external things that make the baby go into labor or make you go into labor prematurely, a lot of babies are born. I saw something where a woman went into labor at 17 weeks and her baby made it. The baby was not born, but it was born at 23 weeks. So who are we to say when is the time? That's all I'm saying, but that's a whole nother conversation. My point is that our creative center has its own consciousness. And such is true even of trauma. The trauma that we experience, even in the womb, stays with us until we make the determination to release it. Because it is from this energy center that we create our reality. What do we create when the energy it transmits is riddled with pain? Years and years of self-doubt, hurt, sexual abuse. What do we create when those things are what we're holding in our womb? Is it any wonder that the rate of ovarian, uterine, cervical cancer has been on the rise? Is it any wonder that hysterectomies are one of the most frequently performed surgeries on women in the United States, far exceeding any of those in any other Western country? The U.S. has more hysterectomies across the board than any other Western country. Hysterectomies are also in the United States more prevalent among black women than any other demographic. If we were to focus more so on womb therapy than surgery, I'm sure we could reduce those numbers. Again, Yemonja deals with integrity and abuse. That was something that we talked about last class for Yemonja. But most people, when we talk about lack of integrity and abuse, they immediately look at external sources or people who have lied or cheated them, but neglect to look at themselves. Were you out of integrity with yourself? What did you allow? Have you abused yourself? Have you allowed yourself to be abused? Think of all of the time that you gave away your power. Not somebody took your power, but you gave it away. Because when you think about it in the sense that you have given it away, then you can look at it in the sense that you can call it back. Yemonja is an extremely sexual energy. Many people like to think of Yemonja as the grandma. She can be that. She is the mother. But in order to be a mother, you got to be sexual too. And the shadow side is when we use that sex to excess. When we use sex in the place of healing, in the place of love, as a form of control or manipulation, when we forget the energetic exchange of creation that sex is supposed to be. If you talk to any sex workers or watch any documentaries, read any books, you'll see that a lot of them, the vast majority, report trauma typically from childhood and use sex as a way to feel powerful. And so this is kind of the shadow side of that energy. If we don't do the healing work, then it can manifest in a totally different way that is counterproductive to us being our best selves. And a lot of times, that lack of healing, that trauma that we hold in our womb, and you can see it a lot of times when we get upset, we go, and we hold our wounds. When we have bad news, either we hold our hearts or we hold our womb, or sometimes we hold them both. When we cry, or when we feel some kind of angst, we feel it in our stomach, don't we? We get bubble guts or butterflies or anxiety, and typically it affects the stomach first, the womb area, or that's what we call it, right? Oh, my stomach. But a lot of times what we're typically talking about is the womb. We feel it there. If we don't get rid of it, this can and does result in physiological womb health issues. Again, fibroids, cervical, uterine, cancer, all of these things. And so it's going to be very important that we focus on that Yemonja energy and begin the process of healing our wounds. Begin the process of drawing our power back. Begin the process of clearing out all of those things that no longer serve us, so that the reality that we create is based in love. Peace and light. I hope you enjoyed this class. I'll be posting another class in just a day or two in regards to Yemonja's herbs and songs. Peace.